In the mid-1980s, characters made their way into professional wrestling. For better or worse, characters were the driving force in getting the WWF mainstream in the 1980s, but was probably their downfall in the 1990s. Let's take a look at one of the most infamous, notorious gimmicks of all time. Today we honor the Berzerker. When John Nord walked through the doors of Eddie Sharkey's pro wrestling training camp in 1984, little did he think later in his career he'd be dressing as a lumberjack, pouring Cheerios on his opponent, and wearing fuzzy boots. But yes, he did all the above. Upon making his pro debut in 1985 in the AWA, Booker Vern Gagne saw a fierce resemblance to the Nordic Vikings of the past and immediately labeled him Nord the Barbarian, and he had a few singles and tag team matches. He also faced Jimmy Snuka and teamed with Bruiser Brody. After paying his dues throughout the mid-80s between World Class and the AWA, Nord the Barbarian made quite the reputation for himself. In 1989, he made his way back home to the AWA under quite the different moniker. Sporting the name Yukon John, a lumberjack gimmick, he would come to the ring dressed in blue jeans with an axe, kind of a precursor to Big Josh in WCW. In fact, looking back, they totally ripped this off. And if you're going to rip off a gimmick, why not a lumberjack gimmick? Dumb. And somehow he found himself within a year in the WWF, and I'm guessing that's the footage Vince saw that was like, sign this guy. I'd like to think Bruce Pritchard put a little bird in his ear to Nord the Barbarian footage, because when he debuted for the WWF, we got the man, the myth, the legend, this sword and shield wielding character himself. The Berzerker finally made his way up north, and upon entering in 91, he was managed by Mr. Fuji and immediately started feuding with the British Bulldog. While still holding the record of being the only professional wrestler to this day to purposely attempt to win all of his matches by countout, the Berzerker was a weird hybrid Viking type character who only chanted Huss, was managed by Mr. Fuji, and somehow found himself in the company employed for 2 years with the gimmick, even in his swan song appearance for a WWF title shot against then champion Bret Hart. He lost, of course. While unenlightened fans will look back on the gimmick and call it a flat-out Bruiser Brody ripoff, those fans weren't aware of his tag team days with Brody, and I feel like Nord took the gimmick and made it his own, with certain little crazy nuances that put him way more over the top than the Bruiser himself. The Berzerker will probably best be well known, while he never really had a memorable feud, but an episode of Primetime Wrestling where attempted murder almost went down, where he threatened to burn Jameson, the little nerdy guy, alive at the stake on the USA Network at the time. For 1991, I don't know how that got by the censors, but it did. Looking back, not many guys can be known for taking a bad gimmick and running with it to the end. John Nord definitely squeezed every juice out of the lemon that was this gimmick, and the Berzerker just flat out was a fun character. It never really made an impact, never did anything, but I feel like it deserves its place. Thank you for honoring John Nord, the Berzerker.
They eat a lot of pancakes.